So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forward. So, this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Adam Wilkinson, who's CEO at Meritec Ltd. So, Adam, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. If you first like to introduce yourself,
Lovely.
Meritec, what you do, how you help people, that'd be wonderful.
Lovely, thank you. Thanks, Chris. So, my name's Adam Wilkinson. I'm the CEO at Meritec Limited. We're a 28, nearly 29-year-old business founded in 1996 by my father and his then business partner.
Yeah,
We were founded as a managed service provider, MSP, and systems integrator. Today, we are positioned as a digital transformation partner. We specialize in creating custom CRMs and digital workflows. We look to help customers where typically off-the-shelf software doesn't work for them and they
yeah,
need a more custom, bespoke approach.
yeah.
And as whilst we've got a very strong platform for doing that, we very much believe in the partnership approach. Our people are our number one asset. We're very easy to work with. Really love to get to the root of a problem and see how we can resolve it and work in partnership with our customers.
Brilliant, wonderful. My personal background goes a little bit back to that from many years ago.
Yeah.
Probably same sort of time that your father was working. Uh, um, so I guess before we talk a little bit about you in the business, what would make an A grade? What's a perfect client for you? If there's someone out there might be watching, what sort of people do you serve best?
Well, for the first 25, 26 years of our history, we worked almost predominantly in the public sector.
Right.
So helping councils, housing associations, social housing landlords, more recently working in central government with the Department for Education over the last 4 years.
Oh wow.
So we've got a long and strong history in the public sector. We had a piece of software in education a number of years ago that was very successful as well. So that's where we've played. The last 2 years, we've been delighted to start taking our solutions to the private sector. And our platform is what's called low code, so it can be configured to meet pretty much any requirement.
Right.
It's both a blessing and a curse, Chris, if I'm honest, because it can do absolutely, you do a lot of things for a lot of people,
Yep.
which is great. Not always the easiest to market because so
No.
we've worked with a few different sectors, and we've got a really strong partnership with a company out of Manchester where we're automating credit reporting and compliance onboarding, working with some large companies doing that. We've been working in the construction sector, working in with legal, so a few different sectors at the moment. It's exciting.
That's fascinating. Yes, it's that classic problem in marketing, isn't it? There's a phrase in marketing that I find really interesting, which is if you go for everybody with our message, then we get nobody because the message is
It's exactly. You need to hone in, and we've spent a couple of years doing that. Perfecting our solutions for what the private sector needs, what we've learned in the public sector, taking all that good stuff about digital transformation. Mainly, it's all about delivering efficiencies. I
yeah,
mean, I'm a tech guy. I love technology, but I strongly believe that technology is not there for technology's sake. It's got to be deployed to make somebody's life easier at the end of the
yeah,
day,
absolutely.
um, deliver efficiencies, and that's what we're all about.
Brilliant, brilliant. So if we look back to start with Adam, and you've given us a little bit of lead into the business already, but a little bit more about you, your background, how you got into
Yeah,
business,
sure.
and why this particular one.
So, I left university having done a degree in what was then called business computing. I don't think they have one called that anymore, but it was effectively applying what at the time was called computing to business. So,
Yeah.
taking a business view of it. Um, so following that course, I went and set up my own web development business. Now, this was in pretty much the early days of the internet, really. I was developing on some pretty old technology that I
Brilliant.
suspect most of the audience wouldn't be familiar with. I mean, as part of my dissertation, I created a piece of software that was actually distributed on CD-ROM, if you remember those.
Well, yes, indeed.
So obviously nowadays all our solutions are SaaS, software as a service, but that really wasn't a thing back then. So did a couple of years of doing that, Chris, and then I the skill set I've developed aligned very closely with Meritec, the
Yeah.
business that my father and his business partner had created. So if I'm brutally honest, I needed a mortgage, and at the time, getting the mortgage when you were self-employed wasn't that easy. So jumped
Yes.
into the family business. Started right at the very bottom on the help desk as a technical support consultant. Um, at the time, we were very focused on managed services, so actually services side of it. Whereas my background and passion was very much software. So as I sort of developed and grew into the role and progressed through the business to then become a developer, then a senior developer, technical services manager, and then CTO to CEO. I've obviously put my put a spin and focus much more on software rather than services. But as I was mentioning, we've got a really good balance because we've got the software element, but really strong services arms to help people to get exactly what they need, a personalized touch.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And so I mean, when you were growing up, was this the sort of thing you thought you'd do, or did you have some other plans?
No, I mean, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a hotel manager, and I was thinking back on why that was, and I think if I'm brutally honest, it was because of Paul Robinson in Neighbours, and
Brilliant.
so no, it wasn't. I do remember a time in sixth form when we had to stand up in front of our peers and state what we wanted to be when we grew up, and I said I wanted to be a COBOL programmer. And well, I was looking back at a lot of blank faces, to be honest. Nobody really knew what that was. And it's not a language that's commonly used anymore. It was more on the old mainframes. But I think from that time, I was always quite interested in technology.
Brilliant. But by total coincidence, I was a COBOL programmer for a
Were
little
you really?
while. Yeah,
Really common object business language.
yeah.
Yeah,
Blimey, that was a long time ago. Yeah.
really. Well, we can catch up on that later, but I'm sure the
Yes.
audience don't want to hear
Yes.
me and you talking about
I don't think that make good viewing at
that.
all. But
Not at all.
so looking at the business and obviously you've grown and developed and as you said moved into new sectors quite recently. What looking back, what are some of the biggest issues you've had to overcome?
From a business perspective, I would say that probably the greatest challenge that I've had has been extracting myself from the day to day.
Yep.
So I've been with the business over 20 years now, and I'm the longest standing employee. So I know pretty much everything that's going on in every nook and cranny.
Yep.
And as I've progressed through to beyond management roles onto into director roles, so where I should be working on the business rather than in it, that has
Yep.
been probably one of my biggest challenges.
Yep.
I've made a lot of progress in that. I still couldn't honestly say that I'm completely out of it. Not sure that I'd ever want to be, but I'm working hard on it day by day.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And what whether it's from the challenges or the successes that you have, what are some of the biggest learnings have you had about running and growing a business?
I think that it's a great question because I think that it's probably cliched, but I think that try to take the approach that every day is a bit of a school day.
Yep.
You're always learning, and I think that even that when you become a leader of a business, it's not the right thing to do to think that every decision is on you and that you make every decision as a silo. I think that you've got a lot of good people under you and that they can offer a lot of advice. And I don't claim to have the to be the only one who has good ideas. You need to listen to your team. You need to let
Yep.
them grow beneath you and really go on the journey together.
Yeah. I mean, one thing we find a lot is often you've got your sort of direct your board level people, the C-suite if you like, and then you've got your senior managers and often what can happen is we can develop, and it's really important that we help people develop alongside us or
Massively.
to follow up, but because you can create that gap, I think.
Yeah, I've
That
always
means
been very, very keen to make myself accessible to anyone within the business, and I'd like to think that anybody in the business, whatever role they've got, knows that my door's always open and they can come and speak to me. And if they see something that's not right, I'd expect them to raise it with me.
brilliant,
If they've got feedback, as I say, I'm all ears always.
brilliant, brilliant. And I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation, so I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
I'd have to say my dad. He founded the business. He began in the IT industry right in the very early days of technology, working for some of the biggest suppliers at the time there. He's run a number of successful businesses, and I still learn a lot from him. He's got a very acute business acumen,
Yep.
and at times we don't always agree, but I've got to sometimes just step back and say, look, this guy's got a lot more experience than I've got, and continue. I'm very fortunate to have him available there to help me in my journey.
Brilliant, brilliant. And whether it's from your father or anywhere else, do you find yourself using any favourite quotes or sayings quite regularly?
I wouldn't say necessarily that I use the quote that I'm going to go say here regularly. It's just that I was asked recently for a piece that we're doing on social media, an employee spotlight piece that we're doing, and they started with me and they said, "Have you got any favourite quotes?" And I sort of thought, and the one that I picked was a quote by Warren Buffett, which is, "Price is what you pay, value is what you get." And I think that in both in business and in life that I've got many instances where I can attest to that being true. And I
Yeah,
think that when we're working with prospects, really we're focusing on the value they're going to get, and price is secondary then, because if we can demonstrate the value, price shouldn't be an issue. And it's the same with anything. Buy buy cheap, buy twice often is quite a true saying as well.
100% agree. I think it's very true. And unfortunately, we still see lots of cases where people are focused on, as you say, cheapest price. But the reality is for us as business and salespeople is, rather than blame the client for seeing that, we've got to look at ourselves of not demonstrating the
Not
value,
saying
clearly communicating.
exactly. Oh, 100%. You've got to be clear on what your message is, what the problem is that you aim to solve, and the value you can bring.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you rightly say, once you've established that, then price becomes less relevant. I remember when first sort of setting up in the coaching business in Yorkshire, and people talking about, Yorkshire people are always looking for good value, and I said, and I've always believed that that's true. The great thing is once you demonstrate value, they're in. If that makes sense.
Ex- Exactly. I mean, we've been very fortunate that when, almost without exception, when we work with a customer, it's never it's never a one-time thing. Because
Yep.
we pride ourselves on giving good service, building a strong relationship. Invariably, they do start to see us as that digital partner,
Yep.
and they'll come to us first and say, "Have you got a solution?" And if we haven't got a solution, and we would always recommend, we'd be
Brilliant.
happy to say, "No, it's not core to what we do, but maybe you
Brilliant.
want to speak to these guys."
Brilliant. I
I think
love
I think that enhances the value, doesn't it, as well? So it's not just constantly trying to sell your wares; you're just enhancing your value that you bring to your customers.
I really couldn't agree more. We do quite a lot of sales training, and one of the first things we talk about is our definition of selling is professionally helping people buy what they need, and
Yeah, I love it. I like that. Yeah.
with a sort of in brackets. So if they don't need what we've got, then we won't sell it to them. If that makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
But most people have this sort of underlying, I think, unrealistic fear that somehow they're going to accidentally buy something they didn't really need or want. Um, and it's like
Yeah, it's
we're
human
not
nature, isn't it?
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that becomes ethical then, doesn't it? If we establish that. But I agree with you. We do similar things. Is if we can't provide that, we establish what it is you need, then let's find somebody that can and let's help.
Good.
So, looking at yourself again, what would you say you've learned about yourself so far in your journey, Adam?
Um, Probably that I'm more resilient than I give myself credit for. A number of I think you've got to be. I think to be in business and stay in business and work in a business that's been going, close to 30 years and that's had to pivot a number of times to market conditions and
Yes,
changes. I think you've got to have a level of resilience, and I think I've demonstrated that on a number of occasions in the past. So
brilliant,
that's probably the number one.
brilliant. And you probably are aware of the stats, but and I don't know the 30-year stats, but up to 10 years, it's quite it's interesting that unfortunately 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years of operation, and of the 20% that remain, 80% of those fail in the following 5 years. So getting to 10 puts us in the top 4%. Getting to 20 and 30, I really don't know, but it will be probably a fraction of 1%. So something to definitely celebrate.
Yes, thank you.
Brilliant. And so looking forward, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
The future's looking bright at the moment, Chris. It's as I mentioned, we took a strategic decision to expand the sectors where we can bring value a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
So we've been on a journey. We certainly not don't plan to turn our back on our valued customers in the public sector. We know that we've brought a lot of value there. We've got some great customers that we really, really value and love working with in those sectors,
yeah,
and continue to do so. And we're working on some new solutions actually that we're excited to bring to the market in 2025.
brilliant.
Um, Both on our own and also with a partner. But also taking the solutions into the private sector has been a really exciting time for us.
Yeah,
I love getting out and networking, meeting new people, understanding challenges that different companies have within different sectors. So it's all about that. We've been in our home, which is or what we've called home in Skipton in North Yorkshire for over 20 years, and we're
brilliant.
moving out in 2 weeks. So
Oh, goodness.
moving just over the border at the Yorkshire-Lancashire border, just off the M65. A lovely
Brilliant.
new development there called the North Light. So it's exciting times for us as we
Oh,
move
wow.
to our new offices.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'll keep an eye out when I'm going that way next. And I guess given it's fairly current for you, what would you say are the main differences between working for the public and the private sectors, given obviously you're making that transition at the moment? What have you found the differences to be?
I think that when we're working with the public sector, the sales cycles are longer. You're
Yes.
typically going through tender processes, and sales cycles are longer. Whereas the private sector are a bit more agile and a bit more nimble and able
Yep.
to move a bit quicker. That's one key difference.
Yeah.
It's easier. I would say I found it probably a little bit easier to market to the private sector than to the public sector.
Yeah.
You can get out and network a bit easier, and there's less rules and regulations in place, rightly so, on how you can market and expense things in the private sector compared to the public sector.
Yes, I get that. Well, I haven't worked well, I've only worked a little bit in the public sector, not for a long time, but I think there's a sort of they tend to be a bit more reserved, don't they? Purely
Oh,
because
yeah.
there's an expectation that yeah,
But
that everything's got
but
to be done.
on the flip side, what I find is that in the public sector, they typically are very well set up with a focus on transformation. Often having transformation teams in place, so it's easy for us to slot in and work alongside a transformation team. Whereas when we're working with SMEs, particularly M's rather than E's,
Yeah,
it's often we're bringing a lot more knowledge that's not necessarily in the business. The business is often very good at what they do.
yeah,
They've grown organically, but they don't really know how they can take the next step,
yeah.
and what technology can do to help them become more efficient rather than just having to throw more and more resource
Yeah.
at a problem.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And Adam, I'm keen to know what you say to anyone that was thinking of going to business right
Well, I mean, it'd be hypocritical of me to say anything other than,
now.
do it. But I think you just need to express caution and make sure that you're well prepared for the highs and the lows, because it's not, I think there's a positive picture painted across social media, LinkedIn in particular, that everyone's winning all the time. And rightly so, you paint a positive picture, but behind the scenes, there's a lot going on as well, and you need to be resilient again and prepared to take the highs with the lows.
That makes sense. I was told by the CEO of Action Coach many years ago. He said, Chris, the job of a business owner is to solve problems. So
Yeah,
if
I'd agree with that.
if and he basically said if you don't like problems, probably best get out of
Yeah,
it.
do something else. Yeah,
Yeah, it is because it is, and I think that what's helped me is taking that a bit further, and my suggestion is growth creates problems. So it's
yes,
actually, if we're not having that many problems, we're probably not growing as fast as we
not
possibly.
growing. They're the problems you want, aren't they? Growing pains.
Absolutely, growth, exactly, growing pains. So to be able to, in our minds, where possible, to turn a problem into something that we want, at least
Problem into an opportunity.
to opportunity. It softens the blow a little bit sometimes when we get to the next one. We just sorted one and then another one crops up. But and looking back, Adam, is there anything significantly you do differently, do you think?
Um, Sorry, from what perspective, Chris?
I guess business career, any significant thing where you went, you went left, you could have gone right. Um, Anything that comes to mind? A lot of people don't, but
Um, I mean, it's a tricky one because obviously I didn't actually start the business myself. I
yes,
joined the business when it was a few years old. So if we take,
yes,
what would I do differently if I was starting the business? I'm not sure I'd do that much differently. We've
yep,
learned a lot along the way. I think what I would be very keen to always make sure we do with any future businesses that I work in is that, focus on the people and focus on the culture. I
great,
think if you've got a strong culture, that comes through in everything that you do,
yep,
in your interactions with your customers, which is the number one thing. But we as a business, we're constantly looking at how we can help our employees, make sure they're all okay, but also what are we doing as a business to give back? So each year we pick a nominated charity for which we do events and fundraise for, and we don't pick that as a board. We let our employees vote for it each year, and
great.
it's just continually improving things like that.
Brilliant, love it. Yeah, it's interesting actually because I meet quite a lot of people that talk about that. They often say, oh, we don't want to grow too big because then the culture will change, and
Yes,
and I say, well, no. If our job is to focus on keeping the culture the same, and the growth will happen, and the business will just be bigger and better with the same culture. I think
the
that's
culture.
our job, isn't it? As business owners, business leaders, is to make sure the culture stays in the same way it has been
Yeah,
throughout.
it runs through everything that you do, and you should take
Absolutely.
it with you on the journey.
Yeah, I think it. I mean, and it should, be the core of our marketing message. It's like, if this is what's important to us. If it's important to you too, then we'll probably be a great match for you. If
Yes.
that makes sense. If that makes sense. And so,
Yeah.
finally, what would be the best advice if you're able to go back in time and do so? Adam, what would be the best advice you give an 18-year-old you?
Oh, well, probably don't base your future career on a Aussie soap opera, might be number one. Um,
Brilliant.
then, but really, probably actually, a lot along those lines, not many people are fortunate enough to do their absolute dream job. That might be a
Yep.
golfer, a F1 driver, footballer, but try and find something that you have a passion about. Because if you've got a passion about it, that'll come through. And
Yeah.
you can see that. I can see that when I speak to other salespeople, other business owners, that you can really tell if someone's got a passion for what they do, and that's something that I really love to see.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Great. Yeah, and it comes through in everything we've talked about. So it's wonderful. Well, Adam, it'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months and just see what's developed. Obviously, you've got new
Yeah, that'd be great.
product lines coming through. So thank you, but thank you so far for your time today, and I say look forward to speaking again in the future.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.